I wonder if you've ever had this experience, and I bet many of you have, where you've come up with a great idea, perhaps you're in a task force or a committee and you've developed this amazing change agenda, a whole lot of new innovations, and you take it to the people in the broader organisation and all you get is apathy or despondency or perhaps even active opposition sometimes. And the challenge is, it doesn't matter how good the idea is, if you can't sell that idea to the people around you, if you haven't thought through the process of implementing this idea, and there's a really political element to this, if you haven't thought through that process, it is unlikely the change or the innovation will stick, regardless of how good the idea was. When I'm working with leadership teams around this whole theme of innovation and creative strategy, at the end of every workshop, I'll say, okay, here are 10 questions you've got to give serious thought to before you start sharing this idea with people around you. Because if you haven't thought through these 10 questions and the responses to these 10 questions, it's unlikely this change or this innovation will stick. And the first question you need to ask yourself really clearly is, why this innovation and why now? You've got to be really clear on why the sense of urgency is there. Why not do this in 3 years? Why not do this in 10 years? What's the urgency you can create? Often something we refer to as the burning platform. If we don't do this now, we're going to be in trouble, for instance. Or perhaps if we don't do this now, we're going to miss out on an opportunity. So why this innovation and why now? How compelling can you make the need to pay attention to this innovation in the here and now? Second question is the question of what timeline would be involved? And be realistic. If you're going to try and change significant parts of a business or an organisation, it's not going to happen in 21 days or in 2 months or 5 months. It's probably going to take 18 months. Now, you don't want to set a timeline that's too far off, because it's too far off, and if people can't see the change actually being implemented, if they don't see a sense of progress, they'll lose heart. But if it's too short a time span, they'll assume that you haven't really given it proper thought, and they'll be cynical about how realistic your idea is. Third question is, who would need to buy in? Who are the people within an organisation who hold the power? And often it's not the people with the name on the business card or the title on the door. It's often people who have an influence, a sway over the culture, the tone, the temperament of a group. How do you get those people on board? We often refer to these people as change agents. If you can get them on board, you're far more likely to get everyone else around them on board, and the innovation, the idea will stick. Number 4, the fourth question is, how does this innovation or idea align with your DNA? And does it align with your DNA? And by the way, DNA, I mean, of course, are the values, the principles, that the sense of purpose that you've got as a business or an organisation. You've got to show a clear link between why this idea exists and how it connects with your DNA. Because if there's any sense in which this doesn't line up with who we are as a business or an organisation, if people see it as a departure from the values they hold near and dear, they'll resist it almost out of the gate. Number 5, how would you argue against it? This is an important question. We need to play devil's advocate. If you have to argue against this innovation or this idea, what arguments will you use? Because, make no doubt about it, people will argue with you. Even if they don't verbalise it, they'll be thinking the arguments they have with the idea you've suggested. And so you may as well think those things through, because then you can position the idea almost answering their questions or their concerns before they have a chance to think of them. Number 6, who may feel threatened or disadvantaged by this idea? In many cases, when there's resistance to a new innovation or change, it's because people feel they're losing control or power. Who is it that's going to lose a bit of control or a bit of power by putting this in place? You've got to deal with that reality, because that'll be one of the biggest stumbling blocks to this change sticking. Number 7, what would the cost of inaction be? If you don't implement this change, what are some of the dangerous consequences that you may well face? And that's helpful, of course, because going back to the first question, this is a key part of creating the case for change now. We often refer to this as the burning platform approach. If we don't change, we're going to be obsolete, we're going to be irrelevant, we're going to get knocked out of the game, we'll be the next Kodak. And it's around how you position that statement so that people realise the innovation is critical to the future survival and success of the entity or the organisation. Our next question, number 8, is who would be resistant? Who might be the people or the individuals, the leaders within an organisation who would see this not as a threat, but something they just feel uncomfortable with? Who would be resistant and why? How do you address some of those points of resistance? Number 9, what will success look like? How will you know when this innovation has been implemented well and it's bearing fruit? Because if you don't know what success looks like, it's very difficult to paint a picture of why this innovation is necessary. Because if you can talk about, if we do this and in 2 years' time, this will be the result we're enjoying, it's much more easy for people to get a clear sense, a tangible sense of why this innovation has merit. And number 10, What roadblocks might there be culturally or structurally to the implementing of this idea? Culturally, of course, what are the things you may need to address at a broader cultural level, but also structurally? Is it possible that the structure of the organisation or the team means that the things that have worked in the past are still effective, but this new idea won't fit the structure, the framework you've got in place? That needs to be addressed. So I want to challenge you, those 10 questions, have you given proper thought to them? Any idea or change, before you present it to the organisation or the team more broadly, you better have clear answers to those 10 questions if you hope this innovation or this idea is one that will stick.